If you do not have an angle grinder, pause the video and go pick one up. For this video, I'm going to be going over the tools I use most to cut metal. Hands down, without a doubt, the most used tool will be the angle grinder. I wasn't kidding at the first. Go pick one up, even if it's the bare bones $15 Harbor Freight one. These actually have like 5 or 6 of them because angle grinders, the awesome thing about them is you can have different attachments. So you can, have a wire wheel, grinder, sander, whatever, lots of different attachments for it. If you need a cordless option, yeah, they've got cordless. You're obviously getting higher in price, and the higher end ones, Milwaukee, Makita, DeWalt, they all put out nice angle grinders, but you're 300 plus bucks. They also have different sizes. These are all 4.5. 7 inch is a very common size as well, just depending on what you're actually going to be doing and cutting. Whenever using an angle grinder, you'll want safety glasses and, ear protection. They are loud and they shoot off a lot of sparks. Now, actually cutting with these, you're going to be using what's called a cutoff wheel or cutoff disc. It's an abrasive style disc. It's the really thin ones. And so really, you just got to match a couple things. The diameter, these are all 4.5 inch, so you got a 4.5 inch disc. Then also, depending on the brand, it's actually very common across the board, but just check the arbor size and that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you right now, Harbor Freight, DeWalt, Milwaukee, they all have the same style arbor or attachments to be able to put different discs on. Some of the drawbacks with angle grinders making cuts are it's not the cleanest. It usually leaves a little type of flashing left over. Can be quickly cleaned up with the grinder. It does create heat and sparks. So just obviously use common sense. Don't be doing it right next to your gas tank. You'll be good. Your cut size is limited to less than the radius. I hope that makes sense. You've got this big nut on the end, you can't go all the way through. So this is some 1.5 inch square tubing, and as you can see, I wouldn't be able to go all the way through it. Square tubing, you could keep going around to each side, but just saying, if you had a solid piece of something you needed to go through, it's less than 2 inches. Lastly, you are free-handing your cut, so it will only be as good or accurate as your arm is stable. If you're going all over the place, making curved lines, that's how well your cut's gonna be. With all of the different attachments and everything you can do with it, yes, go pick up 1 or 8 of them. An abrasive chop saw. This was my next step in the move of metal cutting tools. It's an abrasive style cutting, so it's just like an angle grinder, just it's a lot bigger and, well, it's on a fixture. I've used this thing a ton. It is what I would consider a must-have if you were doing a ton of multiple type cuts on the same angle. It is on a fixed arbor, so as you can imagine, once that's set right, your angle is going to be right on. Because it's an abrasive saw, you're actually not even cutting it, you're just kind of grinding it away. The biggest drawback to that is it does leave a lot of flashing that needs to be cleaned up afterwards. But hey, you've already picked up all those angle grinders, so put a grinder wheel on one of those and just a quick pass will clean it right up. As far as price, you can pick them up for right around about 100 bucks and on up. I opted to go, the bare bones cheap. I think this thing was like 60, 70 bucks when I picked it up, and it's lasted me through so many projects. Well, it's only been recently that I've upgraded from this. For about the same price as a chop saw, you can get a portable bandsaw, or a port band is what they call it. We're switching blades now. We're going from that abrasive type blade to a metal band with teeth in it. So with that, you actually get some advantages, some disadvantages. The cut is not quite as quick as with a chop saw, but it's a lot cleaner. You're not actually, abrasive, or you're not grinding it away. You're cutting it away. You're cutting little chips out. If you're doing a lot of material, you will be going through blades quite often. They're fairly inexpensive. You can usually get a 3-pack for less than 20 bucks, about the same price as one of those 14-inch abrasive wheels. The abrasive also adds a lot of heat. This does not. These cuts are cool to the touch as soon as you're done. Being a portable type saw, well, your accuracy is going to depend, like with the angle grinder, on your stability of your arm. Now that might be the reason why you're getting this. You may be wanting to get some of those curved cuts or, chamfer type deals. And that's fine. That's what it's great for. So let's say you picked up a BandSaw, but hey, you want the best of both worlds and you want some of those nice, clean, accurate cuts. Well, they've got a solution for you. It's a adapter or a horizontal BandSaw stand. This Hercules stand is awesome. It takes, your portable BandSaw and it gets it two more other functions, a horizontal type cutting and vertical, which is awesome because, as you can imagine, being a fixed type stand, you're going to get a very accurate cut for the horizontal. Then flipping it up vertical with that plate, you can get a lot more controlled cuts out of it. You are still limited to the depth of the blade and the saw itself, so nothing different there. There are definitely a lot of other bigger type horizontal bandsaws, but I don't need that type of cutting or that thickness of material. So this little fixture is really awesome for my garage. Here's another chop saw, but instead of those thick abrasive type wheels, you've got a carbide tip teeth. And all I'm gonna say right now, this thing is a freaking animal. There's a couple other brands out there. Evolution's a very common name. They're kind of actually one of the bigger ones for this style chop saw. And this guy will run you about $400, and this is for their base model. They actually have a whole bunch of other ones that look pretty sweet as well. But, so it is a lot more than the abrasive chop saw, but this thing is awesome. Really, the cuts are just right on. They're clean, cool to the touch, no heat or sparks. Just like before, you're limited to less than half the diameter. This is a 14-inch blade, so with all of the, screws, armature, and all that kind of stuff, your cut depth is about 6 inches, max. The only couple downsides are the price. They are a lot more expensive, and it is louder. Quite a bit louder, but hey, you've got the air protection, right? And it does throw out a lot of chips everywhere. So I just keep it kind of in a controlled environment in the corner of the garage, and it's a lot easier to clean up instead of them being flung everywhere. So it's definitely not that big of a deal and well worth this style saw if you're going to be doing a lot of those same controlled, same cuts, same angle. Even with those couple things, it's definitely still worth it. The plasma cutter, it's not my go-to, but hey, it's a freaking plasma cutter and they are awesome. They are really good at thick material and complex parts. Yes, you've seen it hooked up to all those CNC machines. They're what go through and do all of your curvature, all those oddly shaped, those parts that you're going to be building some sweet stuff with. Most of my projects started out with just the very simple, basic, straight cuts, and so I never really had that big of a need for a plasma cutter. Stepping up to the plasma cutter has allowed me to kind of shift the projects and ideas that I have to doing some of those more complex ideas. Some of the drawbacks are they are more expensive than a traditional saw or a angle grinder, except I would have to say I took a shot in the dark for this auto-gen plasma cutter, and for $250, it's actually turned out to be a pretty sweet deal. You do need a compressor to run it. Yes, this takes compressed air, and typically you'll want higher voltage. Yes, you can get a whole bunch of machines that just run off 110 volt, but they don't cut that thick of material, and hey, you want it for the big stuff, right? Another thing is, as you can imagine, you're freehanding it. Now, assuming you're not already hooked up to a CNC machine, which you've kind of already jumped all of this other stuff, then yes, you are just kind of, going by hand. Though, you can still get a pretty good straight cut with, even a speed square. This is the least cleanest cut out of all of the saws. Now, for thin sheet metal, doing kind of that lawn art type stuff, it's great, doesn't matter. But if you're doing thicker stuff, I'd say 1/8 inch and above, there is a bunch of flashing or dross left on it that will need to be cleaned up. So just to recap, no questions asked, the angle grinder is a must-have. Step it up without breaking the bank with the abrasive chop saw. The all-in-one horizontal vertical bandsaw. Accurate, clean, and quiet. Starting to do a whole bunch of projects? Well, the Evolution is expensive, but I would say worth it. Thick material and all the fun stuff with the plasma cutter. That's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.